Hi, I'm Amitai Meged, and this is worthiness-based psychotherapy. And today I want to talk to you about love. What is love? And I first want to talk about Martin Buber, who was a Jewish German philosopher that in 1923 wrote his famous book, I, Thou. And he brought two very, very important ideas, I think, to our understanding. The first idea is that a person comes to know himself only in a relationship. There is no real I outside the relationship. I cannot know myself, I cannot know who I am outside of a relationship. Actually, in a relationship, I understand what I want, who I am, what are my needs, what are my values. This is only through conversation, through a dialogue, that I know who I am. Now, there are two kinds of relationships that Martin Buber talked about. One is a relationship of objectification, and the other is a relationship of dialogue. What is objectification? Objectification is when you look at the other person as an object. Think about a boss that has workers. He doesn't know his workers. He just wants something out of them. So there are objects for him, for his gratification. We can use other people also in close relationship. I want my wife to bring me a cup of coffee. I want my wife to listen to me. I want my wife to have sex with me. So she's an object for my gratification, and I look at her only as an object. And she looks at me only as an object. Now, when I look at another person as an object to satisfy my needs, actually, I myself, I don't see myself as a full person. I see myself only as someone who needs something. And the other person is also someone who only can gratify or not gratify my needs. Now, what is dialogue? A dialogue is when you look at the other person and see him as a whole. You see also his needs, but you see also his values and his thoughts and his inspirations, aspirations, and you also see yourself. You bring yourself fully to the meeting place. Now, dialogue is not something that can happen automatically. Actually, objectification is something that happens automatically. All relationship, says Buber, goes automatically to objectification. There is no other way. What does it mean? Think about learning to ride a bike. At first, you need to be very present. You need to be alert. You need to be aware of what you're doing. And you're there, you're present. But after a while, you don't need to think about it. It just happens by itself. And it's good. I mean, nature and evolution made it this way, that most things we will not have to think about and be aware and present when we do them. They just happen automatically, like walking and talking and moving my hands. So it's the same with the relationship. In relationship, we learn something. For example, let's say I have this good voice, this nice voice where I tell her, can you bring me a coffee? And it works. And she brings me the coffee when I'm in the living room. Or I do something in order to invite her to bed, and it works. And she does the same things to me. Now, after a while, we learn to do them, and we just do them. So relationships become automatic and becomes an objectifying relationship. There is no life in it. There is no real meaning in it. Now, we don't need to be angry at ourselves. This is the natural course of events. It happens naturally, but the more it happens, the more we lose something. We lose our real contact. We feel that there is something missing because we are not there, we're not authentic, we don't bring ourselves, and we don't see the other person completely as a whole person. We just see him as someone who provides or not provides our needs. I want to say that there is no technique that can help us be in a dialogue. Because in essence, the idea of technique contradicts the idea of dialogue. Dialogue happens where you come, you meet the other person at that moment, and there is a true moment of meeting. So a technique cannot bring you to that. Maybe a technique can give you a hint or a flavor of it. For example, let's take techniques like Imago or EFT or nonviolent communication. Those three techniques are supposed to teach you how to be in the dialogue with the other person. But it's only a technique. So technique can work, let's say, for the first time or maybe the second time. Because the first time that you meet the technique, it's new. And when the technique is new, there is something alive in it, and you are present, and you want to be there. But what happens is after you do the techniques twice or three times, then it becomes a technique, and then slowly it deteriorates into, again, objectifying the other person. Now I need to say something about objectifying, because it comes from, we know it from the jargon of feminism. To objectify someone, to objectify a woman is to look at her as just tits and ass or something like that for my own gratification. Here I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking only about that. I'm talking about something much broader. When my wife thinks that I should listen to her, or thinks that I should give her praise, or thinks that I should appreciate her more, this is also objectifying. She needs something from me. I'm an object to gratify her needs. So whenever we try that, whenever we treat the other person as an object to gratify our needs, that is objectifying. That is not being in a dialogue. So I'm saying that there is no techniques that can bring us there. And maybe the technique of imago or EFT or nonviolent communication can bring us to a moment of meeting at the first or second time. Maybe the third time we'll need something opposite. Maybe the third time, in order for it to be fresh, to be a real moment of meeting, we'll need just the opposite. We'll need to scream at each other. Maybe we'll need to be devastated. Maybe we'll need to be so bored and look at each other and then meet each other through our boredom, or through our being childish, or through our desperation, or through crying. Who knows? It needs to be new every time. So, am I saying that there is no way to get there? Am I saying that it can only happen spontaneously? No, there is something that we can do. Actually, there is something that we can undo. We can look at our automatic tendency to objectify. While I'm sitting, let's say, with my wife, talking to her, I can see how many times a minute or an hour I try to objectify her. I want something from her, and I'm angry that she doesn't give it to me. If I look at it more and more and more, something starts to happen. Maybe I'm starting to move aside this tendency to objectify, and something starts to appear. What starts to appear? Love starts to appear. So actually love is what appears when we stop objectifying each other. Thank you very much.